Okay, so let's get things going. We went over the channel, its parts. I will add one last thing. If you would like to be a mentor in our community, all you have to do is come to this channel where it says be a mentor, and you can review it and see, well, here's the different tags, right? If you want to help people plan RP stuff, art advice, be a writer's muse, you don't have to be published. I don't check your resume. But by volunteering, you are a part of the mentor network that we have over here. And so if someone needs a little bit of help inside of the project workshop, then they can contact you by saying at Writer's Muse. And so everyone who's signed up to be a Writer's Muse will get attention. And then if you have the capability of responding back to someone and offering an opinion or a little bit of advice, you're not doing their homework for them, but you can help get them pointed in the right direction. And we continue to grow. We have more people. The workshop is seeing a lot of activity, and that's great. So if any of you want to step up in this community and become a mentor, then here you go. This is your opportunity to do so. Oh, okay, Dolly, gotcha. As well, if you wanted to modify your names, because I do ask that your names match on Discord what you use here on Twitch, to keep it just more consistent in communication. If you have if you want to have sort of like a role play clan or faction, you are certainly welcome to put that in brackets. And because we have an awesome international presence on this server, you can there's a way that you can add a flag after your name if you want to indicate where you're from, because it could also make it easier to find games with other people in your region. You do not have to do any of this though, because if you want to be completely anonymous, and I don't blame you. I mean, this is the internet. You have that as an option here. You could just keep your name as just here for fun, with the exception of I just ask that you make sure your Discord name matches up with your Twitch handle. You had a mug brownie with a scoop of cookie dough ice cream? Oh, Dark Wolf. You're killing me. That sounds really good. For a second, as a funny story, my group has, for some reason, 2 feeder rabbits that are both male. Can you go into what a feeder rabbit is and why the relevant, did you mean like breeder rabbit? Are you trying to breed rabbits for pets or food or fur or something? I can help people at the writing part. I've always had a knack for liking it. Well, Nadpoo, then let's see. You did join last night. So here you go. You're seeing the magic happen. Ta-da. And now you're going to find yourself up here underneath the moderator section. Okay. So all the things and stuff. Well, so Broaplier, unless you have something already going, don't post in the talent market. Because the talent market is a place for people who already are taking commissions, have an established bank account or whatever in order to conduct business. So I appreciate your ambition, and I certainly practice your voice, say lines, go over that. But until you're ready to step up and take commissions, don't post just yet. Hey, Rin, welcome back. All right. Let's get it going, shall we? Now, yesterday, we made a Brewmaster background concept that, hey, this is going to be posted up, and if you want to play with it, let me know. Is this a solid background for you? Is this providing something fun the opportunity for all kinds of adventure or ways to look at the world. As well, we also made a brewing domain concept for a cleric, complete with different domain spells and different abilities that you'd get as you leveled up. And I would ask you all, if you want to download it and stress test it, try and break it, because that's the ultimate test. We have hopes and dreams like, well, I know how I'd play this, and I'd be reserved. Well, not everyone's going to play reserved. If you can break this class and create some, infinite combo, to kind of use magic terms, some infinite combo of something that would be game-breaking mechanically or culturally or economically, well... On top of this, then, prior in the week, we made a town. I know this doesn't look like a very detailed one in paint here, but we made a town that was made around the concept of what would you want and need as a brewer. If you specialized in brewing, what would you need? And we went through a concept for that here. Whoops. Over here. Right? What would be growing in your fields? What type of water would you need? What about, what about any mineral resources, wood resources, etc.? The different professions. So all of this is building up to this point in time. Here at the end of the week, we're capping it off. And we're going to take everything we've learned about brewing that has happened in real life, that we know is a part of our culture, wherever you live, because let's pretend we're all from the United States. Your region of the U.S. may have a different culture about various alcohols than others. Let alone around the world. But we're going to use this then as a capstone to finish off all our lessons and how they've translated into a fantasy setting, so that you can use these concepts in your own game in order to make it more interactive. You flesh it out. You have more things to talk about. You are a more confident DM because you have a greater understanding of how the world works. Nadpoo, I think the brewing background is pretty cool. I've had a few ideas for a drunkard character, and this background would fit well into those types. Alright, so Forsaken says, my group has for some reason 2 feeder rabbits that are both male. We are building an abandoned city, and I killed a hare. I think you mean the H-A-R-E version, right? I killed a hare and secretly put the dead hare with the small rabbits. I managed to trick our rogue, Shadow Monk, and our druid that it was the small feeder rabbits to this hare, and it was alive. P.S. I'm a Goliath fighter. So do you mean feeder rabbits in that you carry around like live rabbits in a wagon so that you can eat them while you're camping, or? Okay, Broaplier, if you followed those instructions. By the way, for whatever reason, on our Discord, here, if you when I post, or if I post here, it's gonna show up as a lowercase US. But for whatever reason, when it shows up on a mobile platform, if you follow those instructions, it'll put a little flag after your name. So, I don't know. Computers, right? Beep boop. Beep boop, robots. Where you're from, White Lightning is moonshine. Okay. Alexander Vodka Matrishka Balalaika. I hope I pronounced that at least somewhat well. Matrishka Balalaika. Or is it Matrishka? Matrishka Balalaika. I had a lot of fun. That you reminded me, Alexander. There's a game called Seventh Sea, and it's kind of like if Princess Bride were a role-playing game, and it has like an alternate world. And I played a person from Usura, which is Russia of this game world. And I absolutely loved my character. His name is Yevhen Brushkaya. And I just went with sounded kind of like strong. I have no idea. Hopefully I didn't like say something offensive, but that can happen, right? But oh man, such good times role playing, and especially in a system like that makes you think about a parallel kind of world. It was a lot of fun. Are supposed to be bait or food. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I tricked those people at the feeder. Oh, okay. Gotcha, Forsaken. Okay, so as you're going through, if you want to make a map, I mean, you could very well just pretend like we started with a blank canvas. All I did was take the pencil tool and make some wiggly spots and then use the paintbrush to fill it in. Something that's important when you're making a settlement is what's the place? Are you world building? Where do you live? What happens there? By the way, Daggerford. If any of you watching are in my Thursday game, here's your home base. Anyway. And I believe it was on... here we go. Settlements. The Dungeon Master's Guide will hold your hand through the process of populating your world. And it works not even with just D&D. You could make towns or counties or kingdoms or worlds or multiverses with this book that exist in any setting you'd like. Alexander, is that if that's the pronunciation? I'm not sure I'm following it. When I was creating the character, let's see here. This is how I spelled my character's name. Yevhen Brushkaya. What purpose, if you're going to make a settlement for your D&D game, what purpose does it serve? Why does it exist? People aren't just going to randomly make a bunch of houses together. They're going to have a point or a purpose. Were they fleeing someone or something? Are they religious in some way? Pilgrims? Are they here because of a gold rush? Are they here just due to the natural growth of the population of the area and people didn't want to be in a big city, so they moved a day or two out into the country and just started putting down stakes? Well, we've gone through that step then with what we were talking about here with our prior segment. Right? So we have a purpose. We have we could even establish the size, right? Because this is going to give you what happens. Well, all right, so if you describe something as a town, how would the town defend itself? What type of commerce happens here? Or do you want a city? It looks like that's between, 6,001 to 25,000 people. Do you want it to be large? If so, how does a city like this generally operate? You don't have to be an urban planner. You don't need civil service degrees to run D&D. A lot of this information is right up here. Oh, yes. Well done, bro player. Fluffy sheep violently explodes, showering everyone with chunks of wool. That's a very soft way to go. And also, this is why everyone, you have to keep your sheep trimmed. You really got to do it for them. They can't do it themselves. So we made this whole culture, right? And now it's time. We have the tenants. We know what the city's generally going to be about. But free wool. Hey, if any of you play Minecraft, you could do a lot with wool. Now, through a scope of Dungeons and Dragons, if you want to build a map, it can go beyond D&D, but we'll just say D&D. You want to build a map. You want to build a culture. Let's build the concept of this town that we've made. And just like we do with our characters, you can randomly generate terrain features. Culture, you can randomly generate a lot. And challenge yourself to think outside the box. If you don't know what something means, dictionary.com, wikipedia.com. Now, never cite Wikipedia as a primary source in a report if any of you are still in school. Ahem, ahem. Whether that's high school, college, or whatever. Never cite Wikipedia as a primary source. But for general reference, especially in a D&D game, you should be good. Forsaken 1. Diadems or Dark Wolf, can either of you be on EXP duty? So, class, crack open your Dungeon Master's Guides to page 18. Forms of government. Our lesson began on page 16. But our class is going to get going on the work on 18. What, or rather which, form of government is our city going to be using to rule itself? Looks like there's a D100 chart. And we're going to roll a D100. A bureaucracy. 21. Well, I guess that's kind of what Fluffy Sheep, just with a pun name. So this is a democracy. And by the way, if you don't know necessarily what a gerontocracy is, because you ended up getting that as a result on a 43 or 44, bada boom, learn some words, learn some vocab. Elders preside over the society. In some cases, long-lived races such as elves or dragons are entrusted with the leadership of the land. Democracy. Citizens or their elected representatives determine the laws in a democracy. A bureaucracy or military carries out the day-to-day work of the government with positions filled through open elections. Oh no, Forsaken. And by the way, Diadems, thank you for adding those points. The book will hold your hand if you want to come up with different titles. You want to talk about commerce. I mean, we've already done a lot of this in the prior segments. But this book, I'm telling you, the DMG has a lot of stuff for you to learn. Not that you have to learn it. I don't want it to seem like an obligation. Things that it can teach you if you wanted to know about them. How about that? Currency, all sorts of trade, using odd currencies. There's so much. You want to create your own. You want to talk about languages and dialects. There is a lot of other information here. Yes, Microsoft Sally, we did in fact. We are capping off our Oktoberfest, as we've called it, our brewing week, after talking with two brewers and who are talking about IRL history and culture, and who also play D&D, so we're able to translate that into a fantasy setting. We've gone through so much content. We made a brewmaster background class and a brewing domain for clerics. So if you enjoy the concept of brewing, its culture, the science, the fun, all the things that can happen with it, that's what we're discussing. Right? Because how often do you start an adventure in an inn? You know, your adventurers say, we're going to go get ale. And really, that's what prompted this. So many adventurers want mead or ale, but do they know what those are? How they're made? What would you need? And so, as we're making this settlement, we already did homework through our interview, where we were talking about all of the things that you could optimally want if you're making a community around brewing. And so now we're doing some random generation to add features to the terrain and the culture, no pun intended on yeast, to flesh this out into... Aw, Diadems, thank you! I really appreciate that, Diadems. Oh, Alexander, I know. It is not a traditional Russian name, which is why I took a bit of a twist on it, because it was in a fantasy setting. Because it would be kind of similar as if I was... So it'd be something similar if I were to have my name in a campaign be Meaty Mergs. So, I mean, there was Ivan, and I was kind of basing it around that, and I said, well, Yivin. Yivin sounds interesting. And then kind of a Brushkaya, because it had... I got to roll my R's. Alexander, that's all I wanted. I wanted to speak with a deep... Yivin, big dude, wrestler. Yivin Brushkaya, very kind, follower of First Prophet. Rolls his R's like nobody's business. And so I got to live out my dream of being a very burly Ursuran character. Alright, so we've established through random rolls, we're starting with a democracy. Ivan Brusky. Now we're going to go, students, pay attention now, no passing notes. In your Dungeon Master's Guide, please turn to page 108. We've made the basic design of the city as such that we know that there's a mountain spring that is supplying the type of water we want for the brewing. And we have a lot of field land for ranching and for farming, and we have hardwood forest and maybe even some pines growing in the mountainy area. It is like DM school, yes. But let's bring a little bit more flavor, pun. Let's bring a little bit more flavor to this region, and the DMG offers some good suggestions to do that. So, for example, let's have 2 monuments exist in this area. It's arbitrary. Do you have to have 2? No, you don't. I think a region, though, is really solid as a DM when you're describing things to your PCs. If there are 3 distinct features to the area, something that stands out, that's natural, or that's architectural, or something commonplace. Well, I mean, common in so much, oh, I know a statue, but this is like ooh. I hit my microphone and my camera blurred. How does that work? Anyway, big dramatic sweep of the hand. Or even something magical, right? If this is a magical world. XCat, all right, hey, be well, XCat. Thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast. Let's bring out our handy-dandy dice roller, and we're going to roll a d20 to figure out which 2 monuments we have in our region. 14 and 9. 14 and 9. All right. So first up, number 14 is a great stone wall intact with tower fortifications spaced at 1 mile intervals. Okay. And number 9, an intact statue of a person or deity. What does this tell us? Right? We have generic open farmland in a town that's built up on a mountain spring. Now, by adding just these elements, what does that tell us about these people or the culture? All right, so they have a great stone wall going around them. That would imply that they're very defensive. They're cloistered. Maybe they've been attacked, or the region is war-torn. This would also imply that they have many masons, or people who are skilled at brickwork or stone cutting, who are living in the region in order to build such a fortification. And people build walls in order to protect things that are behind those walls. And so now there's a greater sense of what's behind those walls. What's so important? And because there are tower fortifications, that also implies that these people are very watchful. They may not necessarily be militaristic, but they don't have a town guard officially, or even a volunteer squad of, the elder sons of farmers who all take turns just walking up and down Main Street in a sleepy farming village. It means they are actually organized, and they can defend themselves to some extent. Virtuous Overlord, welcome back. It's great to see you here. Now, an intact statue of a person or deity. Again, by adding this one detail to a generic map of an open field and farmland in a city next to a mountain spring. What does this mean? Are they pious? Are they, if it's not a pious statue, is this their founder? So would this be sort of like, well, we can use a Simpsons reference. Is this Jebediah Springfield, the man who founded the town? Or because this is a brewing concept, is this the brewmaster, the very first one that helped to found the village, and everyone recognizes him not just as the founder of this town or city, but someone who got the entire industry moving? Maybe you can even combine them. What if it was a pilgrim, a monk of some kind, that had these secrets of brewing and went on a journey to go search for the optimal location, right? All we did was add a 7-word, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We added a 7-word descriptor to a map, and we have created an entire history and culture to these people. And what's more, because the stone wall and the monument are both intact, what else could that imply? It's a healthy economy. That they care about things more. Or that it's a current modern city. Or more modern. Right? Because look, we could have very well had a ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity. If this was ruined right here of a person or deity instead of the wall, how would that shift the entire perception of this area? So the wall is new, the statue's old. What happened to the statue? Maybe no one knows. Maybe it's a statue with the head missing, and people think it's a good luck sign, or that for some reason people are drawn to it and they want to defend. Defend the statue, even though they don't understand it themselves. You see how just changing one word in a description can alter the dynamic of what you're presenting to your players, or let alone planting your own idea seeds in your brain to grow and to prosper. So let's continue the process, shall we? Yeah, it could be a statue of a local hero, Virtuous Overlord. Work got crazy for a long time? Hey, don't apologize for that. If you gotta work, you gotta work. You have bills to pay, take care of yourself. Any pets, family, anything else that you gotta do, we'll be here, Virtuous. consistency is the last boss of D&D, and I try and be as consistent as possible, so when you can make it, you can sit down and enjoy it, knowing that we're going to be here. Now, let's throw in a little bit of a twist. Let's throw in a weird locale to this area. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the city. It could be in the mountain. It could be the spring itself. I don't know. But we're going to roll a d20, and we are going to find out right here what's going to be a supernatural aspect to this place. Good Walls Ruined Statue. Could be they were raided once when there were no fortifications once the aftermath passed. Yeah, it could be a snapshot in time. Maybe they want the statue to be rebuilt, but it was more important to get those walls up. Yeah, Broaplier, look, when we make this content, and especially because all this is going to get uploaded to our Discord, you can download it and use it in your own campaigns if you'd like. All right, let's roll our d20. 17. Ooh, look at this one. The weird locale is a field of petrified soldiers or other creatures. Well, we have plenty of fields, as this is a place that lots of grasslands for farming and ranching that will necessitate the brewing process. A field of petrified soldiers or other creatures. What happened? Do the locals even know? Were the statues here before? Did something happen? Maybe a monster. Or some sort of a spell user was living in the mountains at the time. Came down and turned everyone to stone. Maybe this field of soldiers, or again, other creatures. It could be a bunch of animals. Something happened to them. What if part of the brewing culture then is taking care of these petrified soldiers? And giving them a yearly offering, right? Whoever these soldiers were, if it's known, or if it's not known, but maybe they do know. Maybe something happened, right? Maybe this founder. What if the founder was turned to stone also? And he was brought into the city, but the other people weren't, for whatever reason. Are you having brain flashes? Are you coming up with awesome ideas for what could have happened in the history of this city or this region? If it's a brewing town, why don't we create a lake of beer? Sanitary reasons, I guess. Beer itself may not necessarily do the best fermenting in an open environment. What if the brewing was there to help return the petrified creatures? Was to bring them back. So the whole point, it started as a way to try and find a recipe to turn them back into people, and all the alchemy and potions and magic whatever ended up leading to this side business of brewing and very unique brews. Non-standard ones, because they weren't just using standard brewing techniques, they were using various alchemical distillations. They were using ingredients, perhaps, that traditional recipes never called for. Nadpus is offering an opposing army that was occupying the town. The brewing town banded together to give them a poisoned or enchanted batch of kegs as an offering, and it petrified them. Oh, Virtuous Overlord. Yes, you did in fact defeat the ghost that was in the tomb. Can I have diadems? If you're on EXP duty, can you add 500 experience points to Virtuous Overlord, please? Alright, now, class, turn your pages. In your Dungeon Master's Guide, We're going to page 112 next. All right? And we are going to generate other aspects of this settlement. I like the petrified soldiers being there before. As long as the stone soldiers exist, no one can attack the town. It's why they can afford so much economic specialization, even though the world is war-prone. No one knows where they came from, though. Yeah, maybe they're dressed in... maybe they're dressed in some kind of, foreign-looking clothes or the like. And that's what led to things. They were wearing, green caps with feathers, and they're wearing suspenders with a band going across the chest that are attached to shorts. And we have invented, lederhosen and sort of the general Bavarian region. I was about to say Barovian, and that's a whole other thing. Maybe they're a group of golems made in the forms of man to defend the town? If that's the case, then we'd have to consider why would... Well, not that we can't have them be animated. Look, this is a prompt. We don't always have to take it 100% literal. But do we want them to be animated, or do we want them to just be statues? Or are they like the terracotta statues that have been dug up in China? Are they actually just that? Like, everyone thinks that they're petrified soldiers, but they're really just mundane, mundane terracotta soldiers at some point in time. Someone was plowing a field and found, instead of arrowheads and whatnot that you would find, at least here in the United States, in different fields, instead of finding arrowheads and other such artifacts, they came across a bunch of these statues. Oh, thank you, Diadems. All right, now let's determine what the dominant race and a minority race are going to be. So this place is primarily going to be, I'm going to roll a d10. And if I get a 10, I'm going to re-roll. And then we'll consult our player generation, our random character generation, to find out which number we're dealing with. 7. Alright, so the dominant race are half-elves. And the minority race are going to be... gnomes. Broplier, what do you mean? What if the foliage that grows in the field around the petrified soldiers is used in the town's most valuable brew? Yeah, it could very well be a local something. Or even whatever, maybe it was a magical effect, a weird zone or something happened, and it mutated. Because look, when we were talking about the place here, right? So what would make the brew here different? Is it the spiders that live in the brewery? Is it any local bacteria? Are they harvesting isinglass from sturgeon in the stream? Do they have mutant yeast? Mushrooms? Is the other half gnome? Half elf, half gnome? That'd be interesting. Because really, gnomes are to elves kind of like how halflings are to humans. I hope I didn't just make someone like unlike, unfollow, unsubscribe. Okay, bro, do what you're gonna do. All right, now let's take a look at the race relations. What's happening in this democracy? Let's roll a d20 with a result of 15. Racial majority are conquerors. Oh, all right. All right. So, the gnomes used to live here, and at some point in time, the half-elves came in, and they took over the region. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that gnomes have to hate half-elves. In fact, they could get along really well. The gnomes could have just been, I don't know, living a more primitive lifestyle. And then, so we have kind of like a colonization happen. Who would conquer innocent, helpless gnomes? Well, apparently half-elves would, Fluffy Sheep. Pointy-eared usurpers. Well, but gnomes have pointy ears too. So this would be another question to ask yourself if you got this as a result. Is there animosity? Do the gnomes not like having been conquered? Or do they appreciate it? And the gnomes have just grown up with the half-elves. Now, and also, I'll challenge you this too. In some campaign settings, half-elves are their own race. They don't need a human and an elf to be made. Like, once they were made, half-elves will just continue to make half-elves. So, I mean, calling them a half-elf at that point, I guess that's, I don't know. I don't know if that's any worse. I mean, look, in our own history, there are words like mulatto or mestizo that imply a mixed heritage. In our modern culture, I think those names might carry a bit of a. I mean, it'd be like calling someone who has that you know as a friend that's biracial, and you're like, oh yeah, so she's a half-breed. And you're like, well, she is, but that might not be the most polite way of saying it. But I don't know, culturally, maybe they call themselves half-elves because that's what they want. Or they call themselves half-humans instead. How about that? Did you ever think of that? They're half-humans. Or, you know what we've done at my tabletop in the store? If you're a half-elf, I don't care if you take stick with the mechanics. What's your other half? Half-elf, half what? Half tiefling? Half orc? Yeah, in this case, Fluffy Sheep, if the majority are half elves, they're going to be their own. They're going to be their own race, and they'll call themselves something different. All right, the ruler's status. Currently, so this is a democracy. The ruler's status right now is. Oh, there we go. 19. A religious leader. Okay. Does this mean he is personally religious and rules in a secular fashion? Or this is a democracy, but look at how the Pope is elected. Through the College of Cardinals, they cast votes among each other in order to elect someone to be Pope. And so this could very well be a religious community still. You know, it's a theocracy, yes, but it's a theocracy. It's a theocracy in so much. The word doesn't come from on high. It comes from the people who are a part of the religion. I guess in a way, kind of like Salt Lake City. In how, you know, through the Mormon migration from the Midwest of the United States out west to finally settle down, how they were keeping democratic tenets, but they were their own religious group. The terrain rolls had a sort of Chinese vibe, but the political stuff is much more Israel. Well, I guess we'll continue to see where this is going. I'm open to drawing on any of these cultures or concepts that we're aware of in order to manufacture it, Fluffy. I like your observations, even if I am still picking little bits of fluff and wool. All right, now a notable trait. We obviously know this place brews, and it brews well. But what else could be brought up? What else could be brought up regarding this city? Let's roll a d20 and find out. 9. The population is mostly wealthy. So it seems like they have a pretty good business going for themselves. And, you know, again, drawing back, and we're talking about this in a neutral, you know, I'm not here to ruffle feathers about IRL race relations or terminology or religions or whatnot. But if you look at how the Mormons have as one of their tenets, they help each other to be financially literate. They assist each other. They set aside money. And on top of that, there's a prosperous industry that is based on brewing in this case. So it seems like this perhaps religious, this religious colony or city, something along those lines, the people here are mostly wealthy. They're doing well for themselves. They have high exports. They have something a lot of people want that only they can produce. Virtuous says, maybe because of the brewing, they're good alchemists since they're wealthy. Yeah, various, you know, it could attract more than just brewers. You could get alchemists who are here. You could get poisoners. But as we're talking about, if you're a brewer, you want a good reputation. And so even having someone think that you deal in poisons or with bad product will absolutely ruin you. Absolutely. Okay. Aside from the beer and the brewing and, you know, and all this, it is known for 2. Rude people. All right. So the people here have a culture or a way of communicating that seems rude. Or especially, look, again, what we're building, go back. They built a wall around their city. Maybe these people are covetous of the gifts that they have. And so they seem rude to others. You know, they seem a little xenophobic. But look at it this way too. Depending on the culture from which you're perceiving, a U.S. business mindset appears rude to perhaps a more European business mindset. Yet, if 2 U.S. business people are conducting business, they want that efficiency, they want to get things done, they want the product and or service now. Whereas in other cultures, you sit down, you talk about your family, you know, you share a meal or something. There's definitely a procedure in Japan for conducting business. It is rather regimented. And U.S. business people, if they don't understand that, can come across as quite rude. And so to their culture, they may very well be, you know, good-hearted folk. They sing, they dance, they have beer festivals, they go swimming in the summer. But to other people, they appear rude because of how they communicate or how they handle business. So it doesn't just have to be lumped into, oh, it's xenophobia, or oh, it's whatever. I really should have rolled a 19 instead. What, 19? Oh, well, yeah, that would have been, we know that they have a strong drink, or at least that they have a popular drink. If we got a 19, then perhaps, then perhaps there's a subset, or it's not just for beer, but they're also known for something even stronger. Maybe you know. But we're already considering that there are brewing culture and people are that this place is known for it. Maybe in fact it's known for it, so it's not special necessarily because it's what everyone does. Civil hermit, or how Australians regard each other with all kinds of vulgarity endearingly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, so you know you go up and you see. You know, you agree with your mom and you say, effing right. You see you next Tuesday. And you know, she's like, etc. You SOB, and then everyone laughs and enjoys the rest of their day. Yeah, exactly, Civil. So yeah, it could just be, you know, burping, farting, and cussing could be considered rude. And so these people are... If the drink makes them burp, fart, and cuss, who cares, right? In fact, maybe someone just lets one rip and like it, instead of saying bless you, or maybe they do, oh bless you, as if it were a sneeze. Maybe it's culturally appropriate to actually give a bit of a clap at someone who really had a good belch, or a really good maybe a clap at a belch, and you bless them should they have a foul wind emitted. They don't say thank you when you hold the door for them, the jerks. Yeah, very. And everyone knows about it, Nadpoo. They don't say thank you when you hold the door open for someone from here. Okay. As things happen, there are always a calamity, right? Economic, something about the weather, something magical. I don't know, a dragon comes and is messing things up. As we're creating this settlement, what is the current calamity going on right now? Because you can't just have a nice peaceful village in D&D. Come on, what are you doing, eh? Let's roll that D20. 14. A prophecy of doom. Doom! Now. Ooh. Are your brains lighting up? Can we link that to perhaps the petrified soldiers? Is this cyclical? Do people live here? And then something happens that destroys them and turns them to stone or dust or something like that? Is there a prophecy this is going to happen again? Do they need to awaken the soldiers before 100 years pass? And it's year 98, boys and girls. And it's at the end of year 98 at that. Campaign ideas, lore, history, culture. It's everywhere. Yeah, it fits since they have a religious leader, Virtuous. And you see how we're making connections off of random number generation? All right. We have to give this town a name. I'm open to suggestions. So that's not necessarily randomly generated, but there's a couple more things we can add for some spice. They really didn't plan well for the Y2K, right? Yeah, all of their kegs have space to paint only the last two numbers. So what happens when it rolls back to 00? Suddenly, all the brew is actually going to get 100. Is going to get is going to get 100 years younger, and it'll be better. Golden Brew Village. Is it a village? Is it a city? Stoneheart? Are you naming that after the founder? Are you naming that after the organization? You could just do a mismatch, like a mix-up or a mishmash of letters. In fact, if we go, let's see. So if we take brew beer, that would be Rewerb. Is this the city of Rewerb? Right? Look around you. What do you enjoy? A cold one could be Enodlock. The city of Enodlock. Which is a cold one, right? Cracking open a cold one with the boys. Or you could, you could put a hyphen. The city of Enodlock. Enodlock. Welcome to Enodlock. I don't know if I'd have that as the name, bro, Plier, but I appreciate the suggestion. It just turns back into barley seeds in the casks. Yeah, it all just comes full cycle, right? Enodlock. We make good beer at Enodlock. And of course, whatever this prophecy of doom really wants to crack open in Enodlock, doesn't it? They live with stone warriors. Their brews are made from the stones and plants around them. This place was once ruled by gnomes. They were saved by the half-elves. Stone and heart of kindness. Okay, all right. I'm digging it. We're constructing history, if we go with that. Now here's another question then. If we go with Stoneheart, is this Fort Stoneheart? Is it named after a saint because this is religious? And is it Saint Stoneheart? Is it Stoneheart Parish? Stoneheart, or do what some towns in England do? Is it Stoneheart by the Spring? So it would look like this. Stoneheart by the Spring. Or by the mountain. So just how people live in San Francisco or all these San Bernardino, these are saints named after saints. It would be something like a Saint Stoneheart. St. Petersburg in Florida or Russia. Or you could call it Springfield, because there is a spring, there's a field. It's Springfield. Maybe it was called Springfield before it was taken, or it was called Stoneheart before it was Springfield. Maybe the rock gnomes knew it as something. Maybe the rock gnomes knew it as something. The conquering half-elves came in and they said, well, we don't necessarily like your name, but we're gonna take it as a concept, and then we're gonna marry our two races together in unity. And so, or Field Spring. Yeah, or it could have been Field Spring too. That's true. You see how we're creating history and culture? I love this process. Okay. Random buildings. Again, you want to generate a map or a town? It's all in the DMG waiting for you here. The religious building. Let's roll a D20 and find out. 5. A temple to a good or neutral deity. And we can come up with names for it, and we could just go to town with this creation process. All right, now there's probably several taverns, inns, public houses, whatever. What is the big one, right? What is the one everyone knows about here in St. Stoneheart? And we'll randomly generate it. Tavern type, let's roll a d20. 17. It caters to a specific race or guild. All right, what does this mean? What are you picking up? I have something in mind here. What could this tell you? The most popular tavern is a private club that caters to a specific race or guild. And we'll see how that can influence more of the culture and history of this place. Now, as for the tavern name, we are going to roll a d20 twice, and we're going to take the first roll as the first part of the name, and the second roll as the second part of the name that you're seeing over here in this chart. 2d20. Whoops, that's a d12. 2 and 20. The Golden Star. So there could be a division in the town. Well, here. Let's take a look. Half-elves of 2 worlds. Right? What does this say right here? Could be the racial tension runs high. Maybe there are subgroups based on rock or forest gnome, or half-elves descended from different elf that could be as well. There could be, in fact, maybe the major one could be along, we don't have to go with my idea, but if what I propose to you all makes sense, maybe Fluffy Sheep, your idea would then lead to this underlying fracture of a otherwise, it looks like it's peaceful on the surface. Well, Bro Plier, if you made it, have fun with it. Right? We have a Fey ancestry with half-elves. If we take a look at gnomes, what do we have? Large almond eyes, pointed ears. They have the ability to... forest gnomes are kind of like wood elves. Oh, Michael, thank you very much for that follow. I hope that you're enjoying the conversation we're having. They also have an intelligence-based high elf with rock gnomes. They may not have the descriptor of Fey ancestry. But what if the popular tavern, only those with Fey ancestry can enter this popular tavern? Now, what this would do is it's a place where all of the, well, I mean, by this point, there's probably more than just these two. Half-elves and gnomes can go into this place. And maybe it was made to unify the two after the conquering. But like what Fluffy Sheep said, what if there's a, we have this as a unifying structure, but what if there's another tavern that only caters to rock gnomes or forest gnomes or particular types of elves as offshoots? A brewer's only tavern, it seems a little redundant. Or it's called work. Hey, Golden. Bro Plier, there's a few second delay from live. Bro Plier, there's about a 10-second delay from when I say something to when it reaches you in video form. Though I read chat live. I mean, you're not going to see it show up because this is incorporated in the video feed. But I see your words in real time. It's just that you don't get my response for 10 seconds out. Does that seem like an interesting idea? And especially look at it this way. If you're a group of adventurers, you're a dwarf, a human, and a gnome, or I don't know, or an elf. We'll say that you're a wood elf. Only one of your kind would be allowed inside this place. Interesting. Does that seem compelling? Is that an interesting cultural point? It's still unity in bringing people together, but after that, it seems like everyone has their own other tavern that they can go to, should they wish to do that. It's sort of like beer is this process. But how many different types of beer can you extract from that process through, separating ingredients and in different mixes of this or that? And so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have built a map in MS Paint. Simple, bright, it keeps things nice. If we wanted to, we could zoom in and then just make this. We have built a region. We have built a culture. We have built a history. We have several interesting things that are out of the norm. We've built an economy. We have built a city on maybe not rock and roll. And what did it take? An hour? And that's because I'm just chatting half the time? If you sat down and did this at home, you could pound this out in, 15, 20 minutes maybe? Longer if you really want, if you were sketching along, or you're doing side research or whatnot. You see how easy it is to make content that isn't contrived? If this place existed in a campaign world, would you want to go to it? Would you think that this is an interesting place to visit? Buffy, there's probably lava underneath the mountains. I mean, ultimately, I guess there's lava everywhere in the mantle, but geology aside, there's not an active volcano. I'm sorry, Buffy, but it is nice to see again. It's been a little while, and I hope you've been happily hunting vampires. But be careful, Halloween's coming up, and that's a pretty liminal time for supernatural stuff to occur. Bada boom, here it is. So, this is the town's name is St. Stoneheart, formerly Field Spring or Springfield. Maybe this was a... The forest gnomes wanted to call it Field Spring. The rock gnomes wanted to call it Springfield. While these two were fighting, the pious half-elves came in and just named it St. Stoneheart for other altruistic bonding reasons. And the other two said, you know what? We're done fighting. We're done feuding. We're not going to be the Hatfields and McCoys. And you know what? You can rule over this place because you've settled our biggest differences, and we can get along. As long as we can still do our own thing. And hey, there's a democracy, right? Nothing happens on Halloween. Vampires take the night off. Probably because everyone expects it, right? Everyone's actually on alert, on guard. Everyone has flashlights, and moms are checking bags for razor blades and apples. There's supernatural stuff occurring around me year-round. The lady that lives about a mile down is a Wiccan. She walks the road, ringing a bell, chanting twice a month. Whoa, interesting, Nadpoo. In that case, then Samhain's coming up for her. And I hope you wish her a good Samhain. Yeah, like a Family Feud, Bro Player. Just not the cheeky game show. I'm talking they actually kind of murdered each other if they saw each other. Virtuous says, I embrace the night. Halloween is one of the best nights for me. Alright, let's take a break, everyone. 10 minutes, and then what we're going to do is going off of all of this, and especially this, what's this, Urban Encounters? Ooh. Going off of Urban Encounters, let's take a look at what kind of a campaign can you build out of this as a setting? Especially if you're locals, let alone visiting the town. What are some campaign hooks and such that you can have? So, potty break. Get a snack or drink, whatever you need. And we'll come back in about 10 minutes and go into part 2, where we're talking about making a campaign.